Some flights stay with you, not because of where you went, but because of what you saw. Flight SG-91 from New York to Geneva was supposed to be just another first-class route. But that day rewrote everything I thought I knew about my job. My name's Mia Tron, and I've been a flight attendant with Sapphire Wings for over 7 years. I've handled turbulence, passenger drama, even emergency landings. But nothing prepared me for the quiet storm sitting in seat 1A. His name was Jordan Ellis. Sharp suit, calm eyes, the kind of presence that makes the whole cabin pay attention without a word. I didn't know who he was then, not really. But I would never forget him after that flight. And I still ask myself, if I had spoken up that day, could I have changed how things went down? Maybe. But I stayed silent, and that silence still follows me. This is the story of how one man changed an entire airline without raising his voice. Jordan Ellis didn't look like trouble. In fact, he looked like the kind of passenger we quietly appreciated. Polite, composed, no unnecessary demands. He boarded early, greeted us with a soft nod, and settled into seat 1A like he'd done it 100 times before. And maybe he had. There was a weight to his presence, subtle, not boastful. The way he placed his carry-on, the way he adjusted his cufflinks, even the way he glanced at the menu without urgency. That's when I saw the note on his file. Platinum Elite, meal pre-selected, lobster risotto and filet mignon. Our finest. I remember thinking, this guy is the real deal. Everything about him was effortless, like he belonged in the air more than we did. And yet, beneath that calm confidence, there was something else. A stillness. The kind of quiet you learn to recognize. Not because someone is shy, but because they've been forced to stay quiet too many times before. That stillness would mean everything by the end of the flight. It started like nothing out of the ordinary. Service was smooth, first-class passengers were relaxed, and everything was running like clockwork. Then came the meal service. Jordan had already pre-selected his dish, as most Platinum Elites do. But when Kathy, my senior colleague, walked over with the cart, I noticed something strange. She wasn't holding his tray, just a wrapped sandwich and a plastic cup of water. She didn't smile, didn't explain, just said, "Sorry, your meal's not available. You'll have to take what we've got left." Her tone was clipped, indifferent, like she was doing him a favor. Jordan didn't say a word. He glanced at the sandwich, back at her. His expression didn't change, but I saw it. The shift, the quiet realization that this wasn't a mistake. And I hated that I saw it too, because I knew he had pre-ordered. I knew it wasn't right, but I stayed frozen, standing just a few feet away, pretending I hadn't heard. Everyone else around him, white men in suits, were being served lobster, wine, and warm bread. And there he was, with a cold sandwich that screamed, "You don't belong here." He didn't raise his voice, didn't ask for a supervisor. He just nodded, ever so slightly, and placed the sandwich on his tray like it was exactly what he'd expected. That was the part that hit me hardest. Not the silence, but the fact that he wasn't surprised. I kept watching from the galley, heart pounding. I wanted to step in, say something, anything, but I didn't. I told myself it wasn't my place. Told myself Kathy outranked me. Told myself maybe I was overthinking it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about food. It never was. It was about the message behind it. The kind of message you don't have to say out loud for someone to hear loud and clear. Jordan didn't touch the sandwich. He pulled out his phone instead, typed something, calm, focused, not angry, decisive. That was the moment I realized he wasn't just a frequent flyer. He was someone with reach. Someone who had done this before. Not this exact fight, but this exact feeling. And I also knew we had no idea what was coming. The rest of the flight carried on like nothing had happened. Passengers sipped champagne, watched movies, dozed off under cashmere blankets. But something had shifted, something only a few of us felt. Jordan didn't say another word for the next few hours. He read reports on his tablet, answered a few emails. But I kept noticing him glancing toward the front galley, calm but alert, like someone playing a long game. Then I saw it. A text popped up on his phone screen. Audit initiated, crew IDs in process. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a man with money. This was a man with power. The kind of power people usually don't expect to come with the face he wore or the skin he lived in. And suddenly, all the little things we'd ignored on past flights, short tempers, side comments, accidental service delays, they all came rushing back. Maybe no one had ever called them out before. But Jordan? He wasn't letting this slide. He was making moves, quietly, strategically, and none of us realized the storm was already coming. As we began our descent into Geneva, the cabin was quiet. Eerily so. Passengers stirred awake, stretched, prepared to land. But I felt it in my chest. Something was coming. I looked at Jordan, still calm, still unreadable. But his stillness now had weight, like the quiet before a courtroom verdict. The wheels hit the tarmac. Everyone applauded, as usual. But when we opened the cabin doors, there were two men in dark suits waiting at the gate. Corporate HR. Not customs, not security. Internal affairs. They stepped on board without hesitation, asked to speak with Kathy and two others. I watched Kathy's face drain of color. She turned to me, whispering, "What's going on?" I had no words, because I already knew. The audit was real, immediate, ruthless, and it didn't stop at Kathy, our flight manager, another crew member, even a lead scheduler from ground ops, suspended. Jordan didn't look back as he stepped off the plane. He didn't need to. The message had already landed. I stood in the galley after everyone had disembarked, staring at the empty seat in 1A. The tray was gone. The silence remained. That flight didn't just end careers. It cracked something in me I didn't even realize was broken. I used to think my job was simple. Smile, serve, stay neutral. But neutrality is a lie when you watch injustice and do nothing. I could have said something to Kathy. I could have asked a question, offered a solution, even just shown him some basic dignity. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. And for what? A sense of order? Avoiding conflict? My silence cost more than I expected. After the investigation, Sapphire Wings overhauled our training. Bias training, reporting procedures, even passenger treatment protocols were rewritten. They called it a culture refresh, but I knew. It was because of Jordan Ellis. Not his status, not his money, but his stillness. His refusal to accept being diminished. And from that day on, I made a promise. Never again would I let fear keep me from doing what's right. I've served thousands of passengers since that flight. Celebrities, CEOs, families, newlyweds. But none left an imprint on me like Jordan Ellis. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't. He reminded me that real power doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to withstand, to refuse to bend, to hold its ground in silence. And in doing so, it reveals everything wrong in the room. People think change comes with drama, with headlines. But on SG 917, it came with a cold sandwich and a quiet man who wouldn't let disrespect pass unchecked. That flight didn't just change our airline's policies, it changed my conscience. It showed me that doing nothing is still a choice, and that choice can either protect what's broken or begin to fix it. So if you ever find yourself watching something that feels wrong, remember, silence may be safe, but it's never neutral. Jordan Ellis taught me that, and I'll carry it with me for every flight to come.